Welcome to Touring Globe. Imagine being able to pick up and go on an adventure without the hassle of applying for a passport. Sounds like a dream, right? But what if I told you that there are actually several countries where you can travel to without needing a passport? From quick getaways to longer trips, the possibilities are endless. When people think about international travel, the first thing that usually comes to mind is the passport. It's widely regarded as the essential document for crossing borders. However, what if we told you there are actually places you can travel to without needing a passport? Depending on where you're from and where you're going, there are international agreements, regional unions, and special relationships that allow certain travelers to move between countries without ever opening their passport. In these cases, travel is made possible with other forms of identification, like a national ID card, regional travel card, or government-issued identity document. Let's take a deeper look at where and how you can travel without a passport, grouped by region and type of arrangement. 1. The European Union and the Schengen area. One of the most well-known examples of passport-free travel is the European Union, EU, and its associated Schengen area. Citizens of EU member states enjoy one of the most powerful travel arrangements in the world, with the freedom to move, live, and work across borders without the need for a passport. If you're a citizen of Germany, France, Italy, Spain, or any other EU country, you can travel to most other European countries simply by presenting your national identity card. You don't need to go through standard passport control or obtain a visa. The Schengen Agreement is what made this possible. It's a treaty signed by 27 countries that abolished passport and border controls at their mutual borders. While some countries are part of both the EU and Schengen area, others are in just one of these groups. For example, Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, and Poland allow travel with ID cards for EU citizens. Non-EU countries like Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein, which are in the Schengen area, also allow free travel for EU citizens using just an ID card. What's important to note is that this freedom of movement only applies to citizens of these countries. Foreign nationals living in Europe still need to carry their passport when crossing borders unless they have a national ID from an EU country. This arrangement supports not just tourism, but also work, education, and cross-border business, making the EU one of the most interconnected regions in the world. 2. United Kingdom and Ireland, the Common Travel Area, CTA. Though the United Kingdom is no longer part of the European Union, it maintains a special agreement with Ireland called the Common Travel Area, CTA. This arrangement allows British and Irish citizens to travel freely between the UK and Ireland without needing a passport. It's one of the oldest agreements of its kind and predates the European Union itself. This means that even after Brexit, citizens of both countries still retain their passport-free travel privileges. Technically, you can travel between the UK and Ireland using just a driver's license, a government-issued ID card, or even no documentation at all if crossing by land. However, in practical terms, especially when flying, airlines might still require a form of official ID, and many people still carry passports for convenience. This long-standing relationship is rooted in shared history, family ties, and geographical proximity. It also applies to residency rights, healthcare access, and employment, making the UK-Ireland travel corridor uniquely open. 3. Caribbean Community, CARICOM. In the Caribbean, the CARICOM, Caribbean Community, countries have formed an agreement to simplify travel within the region. The goal is to promote unity, ease of movement, and economic cooperation among member states. CARICOM includes countries such as Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda. CARICOM citizens are often allowed to enter other member states using their national ID cards or regional CARICOM travel card. This ID-based travel is part of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy (CSME) plan, which also supports free movement of labor and services. Although some countries still prefer passports at official entry points, many allow CARICOM nationals to enter, work, or reside using simplified documentation. For example, a Barbadian traveling to St. Lucia may not need a traditional passport, depending on how they are entering and the type of ID they hold. It's worth noting that CARICOM also facilitates special entry lanes and visa exemptions, making inter-island travel much smoother than it would be for non-CARICOM nationals. 4. East Africa, the National ID Travel Pact. In East Africa, a regional travel agreement between Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda allows citizens to cross each other's borders using only a national ID card. This agreement was implemented to encourage regional integration, tourism, and commerce. Citizens of these three countries benefit from streamlined border crossing procedures, and they can stay in each other's territories for up to 90 days without a visa or passport. For example, a Ugandan citizen traveling to Kenya for vacation doesn't need a passport, they can just present their national ID card at the border. Similarly, a Rwandan student studying in Uganda can travel home and back using their ID. This arrangement is part of broader efforts within the East African Community, EAC, to establish a common passport and potentially a single currency in the future. 5. The Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC. The Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, and Qatar, are all part of the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, a political and economic alliance that facilitates easier movement of citizens within the region. Under GCC agreements, citizens of these countries do not need a passport to travel among member states. A national identity card is enough to enter and exit other Gulf countries. This arrangement supports the large number of people who frequently cross borders for work, family, business, or pilgrimage. For example, a Qatari citizen attending a meeting in Saudi Arabia can do so with just their Qatari ID card. While expatriates living in these countries do not benefit from this policy and must use their passports, GCC nationals enjoy free movement, visa waivers, and simplified immigration controls within the bloc. 6. South America, Mercosur and associated countries. In South America, the Mercosur, Southern Common Market, trade bloc and its associated members allow citizens to travel without a passport, relying solely on their national ID cards. The Mercosur core members are Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay. Associate members include Chile, Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador. Thanks to regional agreements aimed at encouraging integration, trade, and cultural exchange, citizens can cross borders for tourism or business purposes with just a valid national identity card. For example, an Argentine visiting Brazil for vacation doesn't need a passport. A Chilean attending a conference in Uruguay can enter using only their ID card. Additionally, Mercosur citizens can reside, work, and study in member states under simplified procedures, often without needing work permits or visas. This has made the region one of the most accessible areas for intracontinental mobility. 7. Special territories, dependencies, and exceptions. There are also several territorial and colonial arrangements where passport-free travel is permitted for certain citizens, United States and territories. U.S. citizens do not need a passport to travel to Puerto Rico, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Northern Mariana Islands, or American Samoa, though ID is still required for air travel. France and overseas departments. French citizens can travel between mainland France and territories like Martinique, Guadeloupe, Réunion, and French Guiana using just their carte nationale d'identité. New Zealand and the Cook Islands, Niue. Citizens of New Zealand can travel to the Cook Islands and Niue without a passport, and vice versa, under the special self-governing arrangements that these islands have with New Zealand. Russia and Belarus. Citizens of Russia and Belarus can travel between the two countries without a passport, as long as they have official internal identification documents. Things to keep in mind. Although many of these arrangements allow passport-free travel, it's still strongly recommended to carry your passport when traveling internationally, especially if you're not a citizen of the country you reside in. You might encounter airlines or border officials with strict ID requirements. You need to apply for visas, residency permits, or legal documents. Also, these agreements can change depending on political developments, regional tensions, or public health concerns, such as during pandemics. Always check official travel advisories and entry requirements before planning your trip. If you've had any experiences traveling without a passport, I want to hear about them. Share your stories in the comments below. And, if you're looking for more travel tips and destination ideas, be sure to check out our video on the top 10 hidden gems in the Caribbean. See you in the next video.